Hey, I'm Leslie Turner. I'm a mom, a somatic practitioner, and an intuitive coach. This is the Intuitive Drop, short conversations about emotional truth, the nervous system, and living from your intuition in real life without losing your mind along the way. Let's drop in. Nobody in my family abandoned themselves this week. And I don't say that like it was easy, because it wasn't. It was a bit of a practice. A quiet, unglamorous, sometimes tearful practice that played out in a Franklin costume on a table, a canceled client week, and something I've been carrying around and calling it not a big deal for longer than I want to admit. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Intuitive Drop. I'm Leslie, of course, and today I'm talking about what it looks like to not abandon yourself. This isn't just a concept, it's a framework. And this is a real week that I'm going to talk about with a sick kid, a client waiting, and an anger that was sitting on top of something a lot deeper. So this one gets personal, as all of my podcast episodes do, but fair warning. So my son Tyson has been home for 6 days with strep. Actually, today's day 7. Which, if you're a parent, you know that means 7 days of someone needing you at a level that is all-consuming. He's 6 years old. He just wants his mom. Yesterday morning was book character day at school. He really wanted to go. And right from the beginning, when we talked about this weeks ago, when they announced it, he wanted to be Franklin the turtle, which, if you didn't grow up in Canada in the 90s, Franklin is a little turtle who goes to school and has a best friend named Bear, and it's extremely wholesome. So my husband, Jarrett, spent a few hours making a Franklin shell out of cardboard. Like, he engineered this thing. He painted it, drew lines on it, Velcroed it to backpack straps so it would sit just right. We had the shell, the red hat, the red handkerchief, and the green pants and sweatshirt. The whole costume was laid out the night before and ready to go. And Tyson got up, came out of his room that day, but an hour before we had to be at school, and he said, "Mom, I don't want to be Franklin anymore." And honestly, there was a bit of a flicker like, gosh darn it. Okay, because Jarrett put real time into that shell. But what came out was just, okay, what do you want to be instead? And he didn't know. He just knew he didn't want to be Franklin. Now, for his birthday, a friend had given him a police uniform, so he kind of landed on that. And because it's book character day and not just costume day, I said, well, you need a book character who's a police officer, and he didn't have one of those. So I thought of like Alex Cross from the James Patterson books, which is absolutely not a children's book series, but it's a detective, and we were working with what we had. So Tyson said, sure. I don't know who that is, and I won't remember, but sure. So I made him a little name badge, and just in case he got asked. Then Jarrett texted from work and said, can you send me a picture of him in the Franklin costume? Because he wasn't going to see it. And I thought, well, we could still put it on just for a photo, even if he's not wearing it to school. So I said that to Tyson, and Tyson looked at me and said, no, I don't want to trick Daddy. And I want to let that land for a second, because a 6-year-old, fresh off strep, who had just changed his mind about something his dad worked really hard on, chose honesty over pleasing. He didn't want to perform the costume for a photo and let his dad think everything went according to plan. So we called Jarrett at work. Tyson got on the phone and said, Daddy, I hope you're not mad, but I don't want to wear the Franklin costume. And Jarrett, to his absolute credit, said, oh, okay, buddy, what do you want to wear instead? And that was it. No guilt, no, but I worked so hard, no making Tyson carry the weight of a changed plan. I actually posted a little video of the costume sitting on the table and that line, my kid didn't want to trick him. And by the time I sat down to record this today, it had like 64,000 views. I think I know why. People recognize something in that moment that they didn't get growing up. A kid who didn't have to abandon himself to keep the adults comfortable, and adults who didn't have to perform a reaction that they didn't feel. Nobody left themselves to manage the moment. And unfortunately, that's rarer than it should be. So then Tyson went to school. He wasn't 100%, but I felt he was well enough. And it was under the agreement that I would go get him if things got to be too much for him. An hour later, the school called, and I was jumping in the car, composing a text message to my client that was going to be virtually showing up in less than an hour, telling her that I would be a few minutes late. but I could still make it. And let's think about this for a second, because that was so automatic. My kid is being picked up from school. I hadn't slept properly in days. The night before, I had slept next to Tyson to make sure he was okay, breathing fine, not choking on his mucus. One of the side effects of his medication, for him anyway, is bloody noses. So we were up at 11 p.m. dealing with that, and then again at 7 a.m. And my first move was still to figure out how to hold that appointment together. Now, my client, bless her, said, "It's okay if you need to cancel." And then my gut response was immediate. I didn't even think about it. It was just a reaction. It was, no, I've got it. We're fine. I've said that so many times in my life. I've got it. We're fine. I can still make this work. But I sat with her message longer than I intended to, and I started to ask myself, who is this version of me that's still trying to make this happen right now? Because it wasn't coming from a grounded place. It was coming from the part of me that lives in scarcity, that's afraid of disappointing people, that wants to be seen as someone who has her shit together, even when her kid is sick and she hasn't slept and she's running on fumes and adrenaline. So I canceled her, but not just her, the whole week. And the relief I felt in my entire body was immediate. I wasn't trying to get away with something. I was more like something had been gripping tightly to me and it just let go. Like my body had been waiting for permission and I finally gave it. I think my husband even noticed. He's like, "You seem lighter." And I was. And what I want you to hear is pushing through doesn't always feel like abandonment when you're doing it. It feels like responsibility. It feels like being capable and professional and not letting people down. The story you tell yourself is, "I've got this," not, "I'm slowly disappearing to keep everything moving." That's a really subtle part. Abandoning yourself doesn't show up as this big, in-your-face red flag. It doesn't feel dramatic. It just looks like another yes when your body wants to say no. It's also, I can still make this work when everything in you needed to stop. So my week got canceled, and you know what? Nothing fell apart. Now, I want to be honest about something. This week, I went into anger. I was really irritable, especially with my husband. It was right there, loud, like the second he got home, and I'm just irritated because I'm on with Tyson. He's home, we're snuggling. We weren't doing much, but I couldn't just leave. And I was really mad at Jer's time freedom. It almost threw me back into kind of that postpartum era where you were nap trapped or you were stuck in the house. And again, that was COVID times, but there was a lot of anger at that point that he could come and go as he pleased. And this felt very similar to that. Anger's often the easiest external voice. It has somewhere to go, a target to hit. It feels like you're doing something. And I know that anger well. It's very real. And sometimes it's even right and needs to move. And sometimes, well, a lot of the time, it's sitting on something much quieter that hasn't had permission to exist yet. So when I look at anger with clients, I let them be angry. We allow that, but then we look at what's underneath. And so I happen to sit with it instead of reaching for the anger or trying to dig up and forcing something to happen, but I just sat with it, hand over chest, hand over heart. And when I did, something else came up. Last week, just before Tyson got sick, I had an appointment with a surgeon, and he scheduled me for a lumpectomy on my breast. And I've been carrying that. And I realized this week that I had completely shelved my own feelings about it because I'd been so focused on being present for everybody else. And this is the other side of it. My best friend, love her, went through legit breast cancer a few years ago. Full radiation, chemo, double mastectomy. She went through all of it. And somewhere along the way, I decided that that meant my thing wasn't a big deal. So a lumpectomy compared to what she went through, come on, this is minor. But that's not perspective. That's not gratitude. That is erasing myself, coming across as humility, maybe. And I did it without even realizing I was doing it. So when I finally stopped and actually felt it, this uncertainty of not knowing all of it, massive sadness came up for me For her, for every woman who has ever quietly minimized her own health scare because someone else's was bigger, because someone else had it worse, because she didn't want to be dramatic around it or had way too much on her plate and didn't have time to feel through it. Now, this isn't a done deal. Obviously, I haven't had the surgery yet. I don't have this resolved version of the story to give you. I'm in it, but I felt it. I let it be real and mine, and I immediately wasn't as irritated about the week or at my husband. It wasn't even about him. It was never even about time freedom. It was something else that was going on. The anger was just more easily accessible. So, nobody abandoned themselves this week. Not Tyson, not Jarrett, not me, even when it would have been easier to push through, to perform fine, to reach for irritation instead of sitting with grief. It's a practice. It's quiet. It doesn't always look like anything from the outside, but your body knows the difference. It always does. If you're walking around with something you've been calling not a big deal, I want you to sit with it for a second. Whose measuring stick are you using to tell you that? Because there's a really good chance you've been leaving yourself alone with something that deserved to be felt a long time ago. And if you need someone to help you stay in the feels, to actually move through what's been sitting underneath your hustle, underneath the I've got this, underneath the performing of fine, that's what I do. Whether in one-on-ones or the intuitive circle, I'm here. Take care of yourself this week. I mean it.